It's great to be here. This is my first time, so please be gentle with me. I'm going to talk about design for the other 90%. Actually, I was thinking of another topic, but I decided not to use it. "90% of the people who design things in the world work solely on solving the problems of the richest 5 or 10% of the world's customers." Before I die, I want to see this silly ratio reversed. The people I'm talking about are the people that Andrew and others have already mentioned. There's about 1.2 billion who live on less than $1 a day. 3 billion people in the world who live on less than $2 a day. That's just about half of the world's people. That one must have been buried. I don't know what happened there. Okay. For me, design is a process of creative problem solving. And finding solutions to complicated problems is not always that complicated. I've just finished a book that's coming out in February, and I say that the first 3 most important steps are: go to where the action is, talk to the people who have the problem and actually listen to what they have to say, and learn everything there is to know about the specific context. So 25 years ago, when I started working with 1-acre farmers who earn less than $1 a day, I decided I would interview 100 of those farmers every year. And I've done that. At this point, I've had long conversations with some 3,000 1-acre farmers who live on less than $1 a day all over the world. And I've learned so much from that, and everything that I've done and that my colleagues have done with me are based on what we have learned from those people. I started an organization 25 years ago called IDE, International Development Enterprises, and from what we've learned from talking to these people who are our clients and customers, we've now been able to bring 17 million of them, help them move out of poverty. And over the next 15 years, we are shooting for 150 million. And moving them out of poverty means helping them earn $500 a year more in income. But let me start with saying a few words about the design process that comes up with tools that are effective for these customers. One of the things that I often talk about when I'm talking to design classes at Stanford or at MIT or at Caltech, I present what I call the Don't Bother trilogy. If you haven't had conversations with at least 25 poor people before you start, if it won't pay for itself in the first year, and if you can't sell at least 1 million of them, don't bother. And as it turns out, there are literally hundreds of these tools, products, and services waiting to be developed. The threshold return on the buyer's investment, and we treat poor people as customers, not as recipients of charity. They pay full fair market price for everything we produce. Most of the products that we design for them pay for themselves 3 times in the first year. I'll just go through this quickly. The 3 key features of the design revolution that's needed: affordability, divisibility, and infinite expandability. What I'm talking about is that so many people that are living on less than $1 a day live on 1-acre farms. And the products that we create to help them earn more income, first of all, have to be affordable. That's self-explanatory. But quite often, the kind of things we come up with in the West are too big to be split into small plots. So you have to take a product that is maybe designed originally for a big field or an extensive use and break it into small pieces that make them affordable and that fit the quarter-acre plots of small farmers. Once you do that, poor people have a choice of investing at the size that they can afford, but you design the product that you can add onto it like a Lego set, so it's infinitely expandable. I'm going to be describing this little drip system as an example of that. So I'll talk more about that later, and now let me talk a little bit, take you on a quick tour through the world of poverty. The way I look at it, our mainstream approaches to poverty have basically failed. The Millennium Movement, which has ambitious goals to cut in half the hunger, poverty, and several other things in the world, by and large, in my view, are failing. Here is an example of the actual performance on the goal to cut in half the percentage of people who live on $1 a day. You can see that it's plummeted from 44.6% to 44.0% in sub-Saharan Africa. That may be unfair because there's been better progress in Asia, but when you look at the parts of Asia where there has been a drop, it's really due to the fact that China had such a terrible situation when 40 million people starved to death under some of Mao's policies, that whatever they did was going to be better. And what they actually did was actually much better because they introduced the possibility of small farmers growing for the market. And that decollectivization movement made a big contribution. That said, there are still 200 or 300 million people who are very poor in China. In my view, there are 3 great poverty eradication myths, which I talk about more in this book. The first is that we can donate people out of poverty. Much of development has been giving things to poor people with the idea that they will put them to good use and increase their income. There are situations, disasters for instance, when this is very important, but basically poor people have to invest their own time and money in order to get out of poverty. The second myth is put forward by many economists that you can end poverty through consistent national GDP economic growth. Fact of the matter is that China has had consistent growth of 8%. India has had growth of 6% over many years. And there's something like 300 million people who are severely poor in India. What happens is, the problem is that national growth is industrial and urban, and poverty is local and rural and often is bypassed by national growth. And the third myth is that multinationals, as they are now, will end poverty. There's been a great deal of interest in corporations doing things to end poverty. But many of these things, in my view, are cosmetic alterations to their existing product line. Until there is a revolution in how big business designs, prices, and markets their products, they will not make a big impact on poverty. But with that revolution, I think big business has a huge role to play in ending poverty. So I'm just going to say quickly that a great deal of the problem of dollar-a-day poverty is centered on small farms. Of the 525 million farms in the world, 85% are less than 5 acres. Average farm size in Africa is 4 acres. Farms under 5 acres represent about half of the farms in developing countries. That is half of the cultivated land. When we talk about agriculture, we rarely hear talk about agriculture as being basically a discipline for small farms. And so we need a whole new approach to improving agriculture on basically quarter-acre plots. Farm size is actually getting smaller because of population growth. Small farm prosperity is the key to ending rural poverty. So I'll say a little bit about IDE, the organization that I started 25 years ago. Since when I reached 71, I decided it was time for a succession. So I've handed over IDE to my successor, Rosalind Copisaro, who actually comes from the microcredit field. But IDE over time now has about 550 staff. They're virtually all staff in the countries where we work. Countries like Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Ethiopia. We've helped 17 million people move out of poverty over 25 years, and we're working on doing the same. Thank you. It really feels great that so much has been accomplished. It's much more than we anticipated, but we have some superb staff all over the world. And our mission now is to do the same thing with 150 million more. I'll take you on a quick spin, and I'm going to run out of time here, but so I'll do this quickly, and I want to demonstrate, I want to talk a little bit about this. Here is a drip irrigation system. Women carry water for their households all over the world, in Africa and Asia. This is designed so an extra bucket or two will irrigate a 250 square foot kitchen garden. It will help with a family's nutrition, and it can earn an extra $10 from selling fruits and vegetables. And the price of this drip irrigation system, retail, is $3. Here, what you do is when you fill this up with water, these are thin-walled tubes, you put in a microtube, and that becomes an emitter. And these systems are infinitely expandable up to 5 acres. So now you can set up a drip irrigated crop of high-value fruits and vegetables for about $160 an acre. And you start at whatever size you can afford. Another example is these treadle pumps. We started with treadle pumps in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has lots of water 15 feet below the farmer's feet. In the dry season, there are usually only 2 crops a year, but with a treadle pump they can grow a 3rd crop. Just as important, or probably more important than coming up with a technology, a treadle pump is $8. Installed on a tube well, it's $25. The more important thing is setting up a private sector supply chain. So we recruited 75 private sector workshops that made these treadle pumps, 2,000 or 3,000, between 2,000 and 3,000 village dealers who sold them on a 12% margin, and we trained 2,000 or 3,000 well drillers who installed the pumps. We gave them a 3-day course with a certificate. This is what a village dealer looks like in Bangladesh. Here's some of the marketing. These are a group of troubadours that wrote a song about treadle pumps, and they perform in village markets. There's a guy on a treadle pump in the corner, and another guy handing out leaflets saying, "Go to Honest Sam's if you want to buy one." This is a full-feature movie that we made every year in Bangladesh. It cost about $25,000. We hired the best director, the top male and female leads. It was a typical Bangladeshi story. A boy meets girl, couldn't get married because her father can't come up with a dowry. Father meets an old friend. He shows him the treadle pump, makes enough money. They live happily ever afterwards. A little hokey, but we involve the village dealers in bringing customers. This played to a million people a year. The average open-air setting had 2,000 to 5,000 people, and the village dealers brought their customers and then made the sale afterwards. This is what a village market looks like. We've sold 2.1 million treadle pumps. The families invested $50 million and increased their income by $210 million a year. And here is the full story of IDE's impact over the past 25 years. We've spent $78 million. Poor people as customers buying the goods and services we sell have invested $139 million of their own money. And the impact has been $288 million in new net income per year that they are now earning forever, and that goes up. So this is very much possible if you use these approaches. I want to talk about the new organization that I've started after handing over IDE. I'm continuing to work with IDE. But the new organization is DREV for derevolution, designed for the other 90%. It will foment a revolution in how design is taught in the West and in developing countries. It will create a platform, sort of a Peace Corps-like platform for the world's best designers to work on the problems of the other 90%. And I want to summarize the part that we're working on now, which is to create global businesses that make money serving poor customers. Because I think this is as big an opportunity as the personal computer was at a time when computers were just big university million-dollar computers. One of the things, and I've run out of time, Jessica was going to help demonstrate this. What I have here is a small cell. You put in a thimble full of water, just about the same amount that I produce when I go to the bathroom every day. You add a pinch of salt, and you connect it to a battery, which is rechargeable. This is a lithium-ion battery. It's rechargeable in the sun. We charged it this morning. Just as an added bonus, you've got some lights. In 90 seconds, and I was going to pass this around, that produces unstable chlorine dioxide, which is chlorine is the way we purify our drinking water. In 90 seconds, this little thing will sterilize 1 liter water. The business that we're talking about is a series of 10,000 kiosks around the world. A capital cost of $300 to $500. They will produce 5,000 liters of clean water a day for sale. probably get the capital back in 1 to 3 months. These are the kinds of opportunities. We're working on a $15 information device, but I don't want to exceed my time. So 3 billion new customers are waiting for a revolution in how global business designs, prices, and markets its products. All it takes is one person with a dream. Thank you very much.